like a little crappy application on my own without knowing anything about coding, and it's just like, wow, they've really made this really nice, and the tools are so like self-explanatory. There's some great examples online, and that's just something I haven't seen from other platforms.
Right.
And so I don't know. I think that's part of the reason why their app store has grown. Their applications have grown so much in the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like I said before, though, just now joining us, we're talking Developers Conference, aka the iPhone 4.0, because that's all that was pretty much discussed today, other than a few minor adjustments to some applications on the iPad, the worst name in the world. We just got done talking about the Retina display and a few other things. Multitasking is up next. I have had the 4 beta as well as Rob. You have 2 now. For how long have you had it for? You think?
Well, I have beta 4 right now.
Right.
Oh, I don't know, a little over a week. They, instead of coming out with their update last Tuesday, because they were doing it every 2 weeks, and this is what they did last year. They do it on a 2-week cycle. Instead of coming out with one last Tuesday, it was pretty exciting because they didn't come out with one, and Beta 4.0 is really pretty stable.
Yeah.
And so it kind of led you to believe that this may be it.
So are you like?
There may be a final GM, and then and then they announced today that the GM will be. The Gold Master will be available for developers today, and I just checked right now on the developer page, and it says they're down right now. They'll be back soon, so they're updating everything so we can download the actual final version of iOS 4 that comes out.
Well, now that'll be it then. So I mean that'll be the last.
That'll be it. When last year, after I downloaded the Gold Master, it was a choice whether you wanted to, when that final version came out, it was a choice whether you actually wanted to update the final version or if you just want to stick with the GM. They were both the same. One of the things that they do with the betas is they expire. So, like, I don't know what this one's set to expire to, but last year what they were doing is, like, every 3 weeks or 4 weeks, if you didn't update, your phone would lock. So you can't stay on a beta forever. Eventually it expires.
Right.
But the GM is the full final version that they're putting in development and they're shipping out.
Right. Well, that's I mean, okay. Well, we were talking about multitasking as they're talking about.
Wait, the iPhone doesn't multitask?
No, well, it didn't before.
No, it does. It does multitask. It multitasks great. It multitasks the phone application, the iPod, Safari, and Mail, and those are the only 4, and they just happen to be the 4 applications that Apple themselves have on the iPhone as core services. And third-party applications do not allow multitasking until now.
We have an abundance of playing finger football up here, Brock and James were, which is suiting because they're the sports guys, I guess. But developers, Brock says. Multitasking, though, is new now, and we have to play around with it a little bit in the OS 4 beta. It was really cool today as I was switching between settings, mail, and messaging. Setting up some of my POP servers differently because WebHost for Life is really stupid. So yeah, I was messing around with that today and switching between, and man, it's quick switching between them, and they save exactly where you were at. Just really great features there. Multitasking, though, will be allowed now by third-party applications instead of just Apple. And Rob, you have your iPhone out there, man. I don't have.
Yeah, I really got to say that, and I know that this is just an excuse coming from Apple, and they said, we weren't first to this party, but we think that we were doing it the best. That's a load of crap. That's the Kool-Aid right there talking. But I will say, though, in all honesty, it really is really smooth and fluid how they do multitasking. I love how they call it multitasking instead of background applications, because people were asking for background applications more so than multitasking. Right. And they're being very clear that this is not background applications. This is like push notifications on steroids is what it is. And
it freezes what position you're in with applications. I think it's a useful feature when I get a phone call and you're, like we were talking about on Skype, Rob, when when we Skype, because me and Rob frankly like to Skype, but when we Skype and I get a text message or I get a phone call or something like that, and it puts you on hold, it automatically puts you on hold. And I'm like, half the time I don't even care who the person texting me is, so why interrupt my Skype conversation with Corny Dog over there to put me on hold. So I think that's gonna partially fix some of those problems. And I know
and keep in mind though, and that's a Skype problem. That's not an iPhone problem.
Right.
That's Skype that decides to put the call on hold when there's a push notification.
And I know there have been there were limitations now with the multitasking due to just performance issues. Hopefully now the performance issues though can be fixed, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and they'll allow them to run simultaneously. Simultaneously without any problems, and hopefully Skype will get that fixed on their end as well.
Yeah, the Palm Pre definitely says it's multitasking, but I wonder how well it multitasks. I've never actually tried it that much.
Yanni was talking about his phone and the multitasking. He hates it because actually it does background applications. Yanni has the Droid, what is the actual? Aris. Yanni has the Droid Aris, and it runs these background applications terribly. Yanni's going to come over here and talk. I think he's going to give you a quick synopsis of what's going on. Here's Yanni.
Hello? All right. Hey.
Hi.
Break it down.
Break it down? All right.
Break it down.
All right. Basically, on the Droid Aris, you got a lot of background stuff running, at all times. And that's why I had to download a task manager. My mother!
Okay, go on. That's really cool one.
That's a background application.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sorry, I got my mom running in the background on my phone.
No, but he got mad because it runs all these unnecessary applications like Marketplace and music and things like that. They're the ones they want you to run, so you have to buy stuff, right? But it slows down the entire phone because you're running these unnecessary applications in the backgrounds, and it's slowing the phone down. So he constantly kills them, and after like 3 hours, the application will actually come back then, and it's really annoying. It's like iTunes Helper. Have you ever on your Windows machine iTunes Helper? How it runs all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if iTunes has ever stopped working for you guys. If you guys have a massive library like Brock does, then when we transferred Brock's library, which is like 60,000 songs, over to a Windows machine, 90,000 songs, I'm sorry. Anyways, when we transferred his library though over to a Windows machine, it would freeze a lot. That was not not uncommon by any means. It's Windows, and the problem would be is you go to shut down iTunes or whatever, and you would start iTunes back up. Well, the exact same problem would happen because most people don't realize when you shut down iTunes, you're not really shutting down iTunes. You still have the iTunes Helper and service and iPod Helper and things like that open. So yeah. But anyways, multitasking. It should have been there in the first place. Didn't we talk? They talked about it on Twit. They said It was hilarious. They said only Apple could release something that should have been there in the first place, and everyone would go crazy. And multitasking is something that should have been in there, especially with the technology implemented into the 3GS, because we all know now the 3GS can run multitasking fine. It was just not in the operating system, because me and you have been running multitasking now for some time. So.
Oh, I just played with my Palm Pre here on the multitasking, and it's got like Solitaire, YouTube, my weather, and music playing all at the same time.
I want to talk about this really bad.
This is where I give Apple credit for, though. Because, like Sydney's playing with her phone. She's like, oh, cool, I didn't know it does this. One of the things that you really have to give Apple credit for is they just took the last 3 years and they taught Grandma how to use a smartphone. And they started off and said, okay, here's just this one home screen, and what you see is what you get. It's right here, and it has all these features, and they're really simple. And so anybody picks up an iPhone and says, oh, yeah, mail, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, messages. Oh, yeah, internet, blah, blah, blah. And they started to ease into it and give more features that like we say, you know, as geeks, we're like, oh, that should have been there in the first place. But now it's so easy. It's such a gradual change for people that have been using the iPhone. I say people like, you know, say, you know, 14-year-old kid versus, you know, grandma using an iPhone. And you see in the Face Talk picture videos, whatever, they've got, you know, some senior citizens that are sitting there, you know, doing this Face Talk thing like the Jetsons. And only Apple could have pulled this off, because if you take any other device out there and say,